Miguel stood nervously at the center of the America's Got Talent stage, the bright lights nearly blinding him, but it wasn't the cameras or the size of the crowd that made his hands tremble, it was the thought of his mother watching from the audience. He was only 14, yet his voice carried a weight shaped by nights singing on the streets of Manila to earn just enough money for rice. When a judge asked why he had chosen this song, Miguel lowered his gaze and softly replied, "I want to sing for my mother. She sacrificed everything for me." The theater fell into silence. Then the guitar chords of Hotel California began, and something extraordinary happened. His voice, fragile at first, soon grew rich and powerful, weaving through every lyric with haunting emotion. The audience leaned in, captivated, as if each note was a window into Miguel's life, his struggles, his love, his unbroken hope. When he looked up and saw his mother wiping away tears, the tremor in his body disappeared. His voice soared, filling the hall with raw truth. It was no longer just a cover of a famous song, it was a story of survival, of love, of resilience. By the chorus, people in the audience were crying, and the judges were visibly moved, their expressions softening with every line. Even Simon Cowell, known for his toughness, blinked back tears, whispering something under his breath as Miguel's voice cracked beautifully on the final note. The last sound lingered in the air, a mix of strength and vulnerability, before being met with thunderous applause. Miguel lowered the microphone, overwhelmed, unaware that he had just changed his life forever. In that moment, a shy boy from the Philippines became a symbol of courage, hope, and the power of music to touch the soul. The first chords of Hotel California drifted through the theater, and Miguel took a deep breath, letting the melody guide him. At first, his voice was soft and trembling, like a boy trying to steady his footing on unfamiliar ground. But with each word, the fear began to melt away, replaced by something deeper, an honesty that gripped the audience. His tone was rich, haunting, and unexpectedly mature, as though every hardship he had faced back home had carved a story into his voice. The judges leaned forward, their faces shifting from polite curiosity to genuine astonishment. Miguel closed his eyes, pouring everything he had into the lyrics, and the world outside the stage seemed to disappear. Each line carried the weight of nights he had spent singing to strangers in busy streets, hoping for a few coins to help his mother. The crowd began to hush, hanging on to every note, realizing this was no ordinary performance. The famous song took on new life through him, raw, stripped of glamour, filled instead with soul and longing. By the time he reached the chorus, the shift was undeniable. The boy who had walked on stage shy and nervous was gone. In his place stood an artist, powerful and unafraid, his voice soaring with a blend of pain and triumph that reached every corner of the auditorium. People in the audience clutched their hearts, some wiping away tears, sensing they were witnessing something rare, something unforgettable. The music wasn't just entertainment anymore, it was transformation. Miguel wasn't merely performing, he was bearing his soul, and with each note, he pulled the crowd deeper into his world. It was in that moment, under the glow of the stage lights, that everyone knew they were hearing more than a song, they were hearing a dream take flight. Halfway through the performance, Miguel's eyes flickered toward the audience, and there she was, his mother, sitting in the front row with her hands clasped tightly against her chest. Her eyes glistened with tears, her lips trembling as though she were singing along silently with him. That single glance changed everything. The fear that had lingered in Miguel's body disappeared, replaced with a surge of strength and determination. His voice, once cautious, now soared with a confidence that stunned the entire theater. Every lyric carried not only his struggles but also his love for the woman who had sacrificed everything to give him a chance at a better life. The atmosphere shifted, the audience stopped being mere spectators and became part of his journey. They leaned in, holding their breath, swept into the raw emotion radiating from the stage. The camera zoomed in on Simon Cowell, who lowered his gaze and blinked rapidly, his jaw tightening as if to hold back tears. Beside him, Heidi Klum whispered, "He's not just singing, he's telling us his life story." Each note Miguel released felt like a confession, every rise and fall of his voice painting the portrait of a boy who had known struggle but refused to be broken by it. The silence in the room was profound, broken only by the echoes of his song. The judges were visibly moved, their faces softening, their eyes wet with emotion. Miguel's mother covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed, as golden stage lights danced against her tears. At that moment, the performance transcended the competition. It became an intimate, universal story of love, resilience, and hope. The boy who once sang to strangers for survival was now singing to the world, and the world was finally listening with open hearts. As Miguel reached the final stretch of Hotel California, his entire body leaned into the song, as though every ounce of his soul was pouring out through the microphone. The last chorus rang out with a mixture of strength and vulnerability, his voice cracking slightly but in a way that only deepened its power. The entire auditorium was silent for a heartbeat, suspended in awe, before the final note faded into the air like a prayer. And then it happened. An eruption of sound and movement as the audience leapt to their feet, clapping and cheering wildly. Miguel stood frozen, his chest heaving, eyes wide in disbelief at what he had just done. Before he could process it, Sofia Vergara slammed her hand down on the golden buzzer. In an instant, golden confetti burst from above, cascading like rain over the stage. Miguel gasped, covering his face with his hands, his knees buckling as the weight of the moment hit him. His mother ran toward him, tears streaming down her face, and wrapped him in the tightest embrace, holding her boy as though she never wanted to let go. The audience roared louder, some crying, some shouting his name, united in celebration of this extraordinary moment. The judges stood in ovation, clapping above their heads, their eyes shining with admiration. Simon Cowell, still visibly emotional, whispered, "This is what the golden buzzer was made for." Miguel lifted his head through the shower of confetti, his tear-streaked face glowing under the stage lights, and for the first time, he allowed himself to believe that he belonged here, that his voice mattered, that his dreams were not too big. A shy boy from the Philippines had just turned his pain into gold, and the world had witnessed it. Backstage, Miguel was still trembling, golden confetti clinging to his hair and clothes as though it refused to let go of him. His mother held his hand tightly, unable to stop crying, her face glowing with pride. Reporters, crew members, and even other contestants surrounded him, offering hugs and words of admiration. Miguel, overwhelmed by it all, wiped his eyes and whispered, "I never thought someone like me could stand here." His voice cracked with sincerity, and everyone around him went quiet, realizing they weren't just celebrating a performance, they were witnessing a boy's dream come true. He continued, his eyes glistening as he looked at his mother, "This golden buzzer, it's not just mine. It's for every kid who feels invisible, who thinks their voice doesn't matter. We all matter." His words carried a weight that echoed beyond the walls of the theater, reaching the millions watching at home. The judges, still backstage preparing for interviews, overheard him, and Simon Cowell paused, visibly moved again, murmuring, "That kid is something special." Miguel hugged his mother once more, whispering, "We made it, Mama." In that instant, all the struggles, the sleepless nights, the hunger, the endless hours of singing to strangers in the streets, transformed into a story of hope and triumph. The cameras captured his radiant smile as he walked away hand in hand with his mother, the confetti still fluttering to the ground behind them. For the audience around the world, it was more than just a talent show moment. It was proof that courage, love, and belief can change lives in an instant. Miguel's story became a reminder that even in the darkest times, a single act of faith and compassion can light the way, and sometimes, it falls from the sky like golden rain.